Boy, it took a few seconds before this AI was gonna launch the camera, even though I hit the record button. Oh, it does not want me. It locked itself up when my oversoul consciousness was gonna put in. Remember I shared with you in the last video about fire and ice and about traction, right? And the inverter and then the torque converter, right? Difference between artificial light and real living light that goes on forever, gifting electrons at a high rate of accelerated speed. The primal currents, primal sound currents, right? So this guy put up there and talked, yeah, it's everything about traction, one-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, and he was talking about how the computer can drive for you. And as soon as I went to answer his question, which ties directly into it, because see, remember, I put that up there about fire and ice. I got the response that I'm not taking my meds. So then a guy responded. There's another guy responding to this. Now we're getting deeper into this conversation, right? Okay, let's make it a learning exercise. So he talked about traction. So he read what I put up there. Then he put what he put up there. And guess what? His reply to the conversation with what I put in there about traction, he replied to that. And then he expanded on it. So he wasn't trying to be a smart ass to prevent learning, that others can now see the exchange of the information about fire and ice, what an inverter is, what a torque converter is. And then I went to type in something that the AI refused to allow me to put into that conversation. Gyrodome technology. I am very familiar with gyrodome technology. Okay? That I locked up says you're not going to put that in there. Da 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 da. Well, you know, these jokers, that's, you know. Remember Bullwinkle? Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Whoops, wrong hat. Right? Now we get into technology. I've certainly covered this subject before, because it's real simple. Technology transfer. Ooh, what are you working on? Remember I talked about versions of Blade Runners, Super Soldiers, X-Men, right? Cyborgs, all that stuff. Or if you will, I met the guy online. I never met him in person. The guy that actually was the original author of what was known as The Immortals. That was the original name of The Matrix, the movie they made of The Matrix. You know, with the Matrix trilogy. Now they got another one out. I got to know him fairly well, even though, you know, we went back and forth every day in my messenger window and his, you know, and stuff he was putting up online, stuff I was putting up online with the Washniaks, or with the brother, you know, all the folks that produced and directed that movie, all them folks, right? He sort of gave me remember what we used to call it, the inside scoop. We get an insider's point of view. You know, they basically tried to kill him and his family. Unnaturally, but you know how that works with these folks, right? It's because their perception of power, which is a perception of the vibration is represented by their soul and their consciousness, right, does not experience what love is. Otherwise, they wouldn't do what they do with the technology they have access to, and thus it gets developed. You know, R&D, research and development, formations of consciousness, particularly as it relates to alien machinery or artificial intelligence, to wage war against the living. That's what it is. Because anything that would choose to wage war against eternity is going to lose automatically. But that isn't going to prevent them from doing what it is that they do anyway, does it? So you know that it's only a matter of time. It might be 500 billion years. But at some point in time, when you get to the consciousness levels of the primal sound field consciousness, which is experiencing eternal light, and decisions are made at those levels, which are the highest councils, right? It's because of how I've experienced that. Because I don't have the capacity, which is, I mentioned this to my grandmother, I don't have the capacity to do Now we're into capacitors and capacitors. My capacitor does not have the capacity to use my energy to harm anything. So you can see the difficulty in that. Because I realize what I am is eternity, and they're not. So they don't need any help from us. What matters are casualties. It would be as if how many losses of souls, fractures, fractal loss. Because when you realize that a magnet is a mirror, which is what you become aware of magnetically, when you become aware of other energy that is represented by what love is, and you're trying to harm what that is loving you, something is definitely wrong with you. Because it means that that energy loves you, regardless of who or what you are. Even if you're going to war against us, we still love you. They don't know how to translate that. Because their perception of power is not through love. It's through war. And that war is a state of mind, which is a state of consciousness that is fallen. See ya, bye. You know, it's like Mr. Wizard when you see him going down that hole, spinning down that hole. Bye, Mr. Wizard. Can I pull you up out of there? Can I pull you up out of that hole you're in? Right? Now you're into covering debts. I cover debts. Now you get into collating units of energy, which represent units of consciousness. And if you will, identities. Identity changes, identity swaps, vehicle swaps. All their hide and seek games using the technology in which it gets done, right? So technology is their bag of tricks to extend themselves as a result of that. So it's much like, I mentioned this before, it's like the parents saying, okay, it's time to take their toys away. That's exactly what it felt like. And it felt like that for me at 4 years of age, believe it or not. So I realized I had to be willing to experience everything that they experience here. Otherwise, I live in fear of what they are, and I don't. I love them. I don't love them for what they do, but I love them for who they are because they're in my mirror. That's my mirror. My mirror is always on fire, and I give love to everything that's in my mirror. So it's much in the same way that I think I saw a meme put up sometime that talked about, and this is how the perception of that power that I just described works. And that is to devalue something else, right? Believing that that increases what you are in value. When the truth is the inversion of that. So when you're devaluing something else that is in your mirror, you're devaluing your own mirror, huh? And when you're devaluing your own mirror, it means you don't have much personal regard for yourself, do you? About what it is that you are in energy or consciousness, in which we use our energy as consciousness to communicate with others. So love is a communication. I communicate what it is that I am in energy, which is what love is through my heart and my soul to all of you. So that's not their preferred way to communicate, is it? No. So they have to resort to technology. And it ends up becoming their own worst enemy. Yep. Because they know that the cosmic clock can be reset. Now we're back to the beginning. That's the end of history and the rebirth of Goddess. That's why all the, I think it was Lisa that put up the triple solar feminine and all the higher stuff. All the stuff that makes you go tingly. You know, the stuff that really lifts you. It's the stuff when you begin to experience that naturally, which are those particular energies that are those bands of frequencies that just go, oh, yeah. This is, now I remember this stuff. I remember this stuff. Oh, yes. Thank you. And you're actually giving it to yourself by knowing how to tap into it. That's why I work with the sun. Let's do a dance, baby. Doing a dance in spirit. You can pull. You go out, work with the sun. You know, I'm on the big island, so it's a special rock here in this place, boy. This is a generator. 5 magnets on this rock. And this rock is it's not that big of a rock. But it does sit out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and a lot of water, a lot of salt water on. So I'm blessed to even be here. To even be sitting on this rock, this island, on the big island. It's a blessing. It's an eternal blessing. It's a very special place. My home court is over there on the island of Kauai. That's why it hurt me very deeply after